No one expects the truth to arrive through someone else's voice, especially not through family, and definitely not through the cousin no one ever talks about. She had always thought that day would pass quietly, just another family visit, just another polite smile she practiced too well. Emily stood at the kitchen window, watching autumn leaves slide across the driveway. Her reflection looked calm, but her chest felt tight, like it often did lately. Her husband, Daniel, had gone to pick up his cousin Mark from the station. Emily barely knew him. He lived states away and only came around during big family moments. She wiped her hands on a towel she didn't need. The house was already spotless. She cleaned when she was nervous. Their marriage looked fine from the outside. 2 stable careers, a comfortable home, shared laughter at dinner parties. But lately, silence filled the spaces where warmth used to live. Not anger, just distance. The sound of a car door closing pulled her back. Voices drifted in through the hallway. Daniel sounded cheerful, almost relieved. Mark stepped inside with an easy smile. He was taller than she expected, older too, maybe early 40s. His eyes held something observant, not judgmental, just aware. They exchanged greetings, hugs that were polite but brief. Emily noticed how Mark looked around, taking everything in quietly. Dinner passed smoothly, too smoothly. Stories were shared, laughter landed where expected.
But Emily noticed Mark watching her when Daniel wasn't looking. Not staring, listening with his eyes. After dessert, Daniel's phone buzzed. Work call. He apologized and stepped into the study. That was when the air shifted. Mark offered to help clear the table. Emily nodded, grateful for something to do. Their hands moved in silence for a moment. "You seem kind," Mark said suddenly. His voice was calm, not intrusive. Emily smiled politely. "Thank you." He paused, holding a plate. "I hope this doesn't sound strange." Her stomach tightened. Family honesty always carried weight. "I remember when Daniel talked about you years ago," Mark continued. His voice was different then. Emily kept her eyes on the sink. Different how, she wondered. "He sounded certain," Mark said. Grounded, like he knew where he was headed. Emily swallowed. She hadn't heard that tone in a long time either. "I'm not saying he doesn't care," Mark added quickly. "He does, deeply." She finally looked at him. His expression was gentle, careful. "But caring isn't the same as showing up," he said softly. The words landed quietly, but they stayed. Emily felt something stir. Not anger, recognition. "I didn't mean to cross a line," Mark said. "I just believe some things are worth saying out loud." She leaned against the counter. Her voice came out smaller than she expected. "I've been wondering if I'm imagining things," she admitted. "If I'm asking for too much." Mark shook his head slowly.
No one asks for too much when they ask to be seen. The study door remained closed. Daniel's voice murmured behind it. Oblivious. Emily's eyes burned. Not with tears, with relief. For the first time in a long while, someone had named what she felt. Without blame, without drama. "Sometimes," Mark said, lowering his voice, "people don't realize they've drifted until someone else notices the distance." Emily nodded. Her heart beat louder. Faster. She didn't know what would change, or if anything would. But she knew one thing. This conversation mattered. Daniel stepped back into the room moments later, smiling. The moment shattered. But something lingered. Mark met her eyes one last time. A quiet understanding passed between them. Emily realized that honesty didn't always come from where you expect. And sometimes, a new perspective begins with a single, brave sentence. That night, as she lay awake beside her husband, Mark's words echoed softly in her mind, and she wondered what would happen if she finally listened to them. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. The truth had been spoken, but what would she do with it? Sometimes, one honest moment changes how you hear everything afterward. Emily discovered that the next morning. Nothing sounded the same. Sunlight crept through the curtains. Daniel was already awake, scrolling on his phone. The familiar distance sat between them like an unspoken rule. Emily studied his face. The man she loved was right there, yet he felt far away. Mark's words echoed softly in her chest. Caring isn't the same as showing up. At breakfast, Daniel chatted about work. Meetings, deadlines, small frustrations. Emily nodded, responding when expected. But inside, she felt different, more alert, more aware of what was missing. Mark joined them quietly. He thanked Emily for the meal. Their eyes met briefly, then looked away. No signals, no awkwardness, just understanding. Later that afternoon, Daniel left for the office. Mark planned to stay one more day before heading back. The house felt calmer without the noise of routine. Emily found Mark on the back porch, sipping coffee. The sky was gray, thoughtful. It suited her mood. "I hope I didn't cause tension," Mark said gently. He didn't turn around. He gave her space. "You didn't," Emily replied honestly. "You named something I've been afraid to admit." Mark nodded once. "That usually feels uncomfortable." Emily leaned against the railing. "I keep telling myself it's just a phase, that marriage naturally quiets over time." "Sometimes it does," Mark said. "But sometimes quiet is a signal, not a season." She wrapped her arms around herself. The air felt cooler. "Daniel isn't cruel," she said quickly. "He's not unfaithful. He's just elsewhere." Mark finally turned to her. "That can hurt just as much." Emily felt her throat tighten. She had never said that out loud before. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Her voice shook slightly. "Of course." "How do you know when to speak up? When it's worth risking peace?" Mark considered this carefully. "Peace built on silence isn't peace," he said. "It's pause." Emily let that settle. It made sense in a way that scared her. That evening, Daniel came home tired. He kissed her cheek absent-mindedly, asked what was for dinner. Emily hesitated. Just a moment, but enough. "Can we talk first?" she asked. Daniel looked surprised, then concerned. "Is everything okay?" She nodded. Yes and no. They sat across from each other at the table, the same table where they'd shared so many meals, so many plans. Emily folded her hands. "I've been feeling invisible," she said simply. Daniel blinked. "I don't understand." "I know you care," she continued. "I just don't feel chosen anymore." Silence followed. Heavy. Uncomfortable. "That's not fair," Daniel said finally. "I work hard for us." "I know," Emily replied softly, "and I appreciate that." She leaned forward slightly. "But I miss you. I miss us." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "I didn't realize you felt this way." "That's the problem," she said. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Mark passed through the hallway quietly. He didn't linger, but his presence reminded Emily she wasn't imagining things. Daniel looked down at the table. "I guess I thought things were fine." Emily nodded slowly. "That's what scares me." The conversation ended without resolution. No argument, no apology, just awareness and uncertainty. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Daniel turned away, lost in his thoughts. The space between them felt wider than the bed. She stared at the ceiling.
wondering if honesty would bring them closer or pull them apart. In the morning, Mark prepared to leave. He hugged Daniel goodbye, clapped him on the shoulder. When he turned to Emily, his voice was quiet. "Whatever happens, you deserve clarity." She nodded. Tears threatened, but she held them back. As his car disappeared down the road, Emily felt the weight of what had begun. A door had opened, and now it couldn't be closed. That evening, Daniel came home earlier than usual. He stood in the doorway, hesitant, like someone unsure of their next step. Emily looked up from the couch. Their eyes locked. And in that moment, she knew the real conversation hadn't happened yet. It was still coming, and it would change everything. Some conversations wait patiently until you are ready to hear them. This one refused to wait any longer. Daniel set his keys down slowly. He didn't turn on the lights. He just stood there. "I've been thinking all day," he said. His voice sounded different, quieter, less certain. Emily sat up on the couch. She didn't rush him. She had learned that silence could invite honesty. "I didn't realize how far I had drifted," Daniel continued. "I thought providing was enough." Emily nodded once.
"It's part of it," she said. "Not all of it." He sat across from her, elbows on his knees. "I'm scared," he admitted, "that I've already failed you." The word failed landed heavily. Emily softened. "I'm not asking for perfection," she said. "I'm asking to matter out loud." Daniel looked up. His eyes were glossy, surprised by his own emotion. "I don't want to lose you." That truth cracked something open. They talked for a long time. Not loudly, not dramatically. They talked about routines, about exhaustion, about assumptions they'd both made. Emily admitted she'd stopped asking for more. Daniel admitted he'd stopped noticing. Neither confession was cruel. Both were honest. "I think I forgot how to slow down," Daniel said. "I forgot how to listen without fixing." Emily reached for his hand. "That's all I've wanted," she whispered. The following weeks felt different. Not magically better, but intentional. Daniel started coming home earlier. Not every day, but often enough to matter. They ate together, walked after dinner, left their phones behind. Still, something lingered in Emily's heart, a quiet question she couldn't name. One afternoon, she received a message from Mark. Just a simple check-in, no expectations. "Hope you're doing okay," it read. Honesty can feel heavy at first. Emily stared at the screen, then replied, "It does, but it also feels real." Mark's response came later. "Real is where healing starts." That night, Emily realized something important. Mark hadn't changed her marriage. He had changed her courage. She had spoken up. She had been heard. But healing, she learned, was not linear. Some days felt warm. Others felt uncertain again. Daniel noticed her distance one evening. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. She hesitated, then decided not to retreat. "I'm afraid of slipping back into silence," she said. "I don't want to lose myself again." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then don't disappear," he said. "Stay right here with me." They held each other that night, not out of habit, out of choice. Weeks passed, trust rebuilt in small moments, a shared laugh, a remembered detail, a question asked with genuine interest. Emily felt hopeful, cautiously, tenderly. But life has a way of testing new beginnings. One evening, Daniel mentioned a possible relocation, another city, another opportunity. Emily felt her chest tighten. Old fears surfaced. "Would you ask me first?" she said quietly, "or tell me after?" Daniel froze. The question revealed more than she intended. "I would ask," he said after a moment. "I promise." She searched his face, looking for certainty. And that was when Emily realized something else. Perspective didn't mean answers. It meant awareness. And awareness changed how choices were made. Still, the decision loomed, and Emily wondered if this new understanding would survive it. The future stood before them, unwritten,
unsteady, and Emily knew the next step would reveal everything. Some decisions don't arrive loudly. They sit quietly, waiting for honesty to catch up. The relocation offer stayed on the table, not as a demand, as a question. Daniel didn't rush it. That alone felt new. One evening, he spread the papers across the dining table. Maps, notes, possibilities. "I won't move without you," he said. Not defensively, sincerely. Emily studied the pages. Another city meant another reset, another chance to get lost if they weren't careful. What would change? She asked. Really? Daniel didn't answer right away. He leaned back, thinking. "I would," he said finally. She met his eyes. "You can't promise that lightly." "I know," he replied. "That's why I'm saying it now, not later." They talked late into the night, about fears they'd never voiced, about the version of themselves they wanted to protect. Emily admitted she was afraid of becoming adaptable instead of fulfilled. Daniel admitted he'd been chasing stability instead of connection. The conversation didn't end with certainty, but it ended with respect. The following weekend, Emily took a long walk alone. She needed to hear her own thoughts, without interruption. She thought about Mark, about the way he'd spoken without expectation, about how one moment of honesty had shifted her entire lens. Perspective wasn't about choosing sides. It was about choosing truth. When she returned home, Daniel was waiting, not anxiously, patiently. "I don't have an answer yet," she said.
"That's okay," he replied. "We'll wait for one together." Something inside her softened. Days passed, then weeks. They didn't rush, they didn't avoid. They practiced showing up, over and over. One evening, Emily finally spoke. "I'm not afraid of moving," she said. "I'm afraid of disappearing again." Daniel took her hands. "Then let's build something that doesn't let that happen." She believed him, not blindly, but hopefully. Emily sent Mark a message that night. "You were right," she wrote. "Distance doesn't shrink on its own." His reply came the next morning. "Proud of you for walking toward it." The decision was made soon after. They would move, but on their terms. Boundaries discussed, time protected, voices valued. The move wasn't easy. Boxes filled the house, goodbyes carried weight. On the last night in their old home, Emily stood in the empty living room. Memories echoed softly, not painfully, just honestly. Daniel joined her, wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Thank you for not giving up," he said. Emily leaned into him. "Thank you for coming back." As they turned off the lights for the final time, Emily felt something she hadn't in years. Peace. Not the quiet kind built on silence, but the steady kind built on truth. Still, she knew life would test them again. It always did. But this time she trusted her voice, and she trusted that being heard would matter. The road ahead was long, but it felt shared, and that made all the difference. Some lessons don't end when the story feels complete. They settle in quietly and stay with you. The new city greeted them gently. Different streets, different rhythms. Emily noticed how Daniel checked in more often, not out of fear, out of care. They built routines together this time, morning walks, evening check-ins. Not rules, reminders. There were still hard days, moments of miscommunication, old habits knocking at the door. But now, Emily didn't swallow her feelings. She spoke them, calmly, clearly. And Daniel listened, not halfway, fully. One afternoon, while unpacking the last box, Emily found an old photo, the two of them, years ago, laughing without effort. She smiled, not with longing, with gratitude. They hadn't returned to that version of themselves. They had grown into something new, something sturdier.
Weeks later, Daniel received another message from Mark. Just a casual update. A life lived elsewhere. Emily smiled when she saw the name. He was part of this, she said. Daniel nodded. He was brave enough to say something I couldn't hear from anyone else. That night, Emily wrote Mark a final message. Thank you for speaking honestly when it mattered. His reply came simply, you did the rest. Emily realized then that perspective wasn't about blame, it was about clarity. And clarity had changed her marriage, not by fixing it, but by grounding it. One evening, as the sun dipped behind unfamiliar buildings, Emily and Daniel sat on their small balcony, quiet, comfortable. Do you feel different? Daniel asked. Emily considered the question. Yes, she said. I feel present. Daniel reached for her hand. So do I. The city hummed below them. Life moving forward. Uncertain. Beautiful. Emily thought about the woman she had been before. Afraid to ask. Afraid to disturb peace. She wished she could tell her something. That peace built on silence is fragile. And honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, is a gift. She rested her head on Daniel's shoulder, not because she needed to, because she wanted to. Their story didn't end perfectly. It ended truthfully. And that, Emily learned, was enough.